On Used Bike Heaven this week, we'll meet Karl Glover. He's on the lookout for a V-twin sports bike. We'll also have another featured used bike, a riding tip and some advice to keep you on the right side of the law. This is Karl Glover. He's an IT manager from Kent who works in the centre of London, which means a round trip of 150 miles per day on his Ducati 748. This week Karl's looking for a machine in the 1000cc bracket, but he'd like to retain the sporty looks and the feel of a V-twin.
Hello and welcome to the show, and I have Karl with me. Now Karl, I hear you're a bit of a V-twin fan.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
Right, okay, what do you currently have?
748 Ducati.
Right, so what are you looking for today?
Something a bit bigger, a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at more like 1000cc.
Right. What do you use your bike for?
Commuting to work.
Oh, right, so you need all the power you can get, really.
A lot of motorway work, so I need something that's got a decent size engine.
Yeah, I know you're on it for long periods of time.
Yeah, about an hour and a half, 3 hours a day, it's an hour and a half each way.
Right, but I mean, hopefully comfort isn't too much of
No.
importance.
No, God no, I'll get a scooter.
Right, okay, so what's your budget?
Maximum 6,000.
Right, okay, you might not like me too much. We've got Suzuki TL1000R.
Yep.
That's 4,800, so that's well within your budget. We've got the Honda SP1, that's 6,000, so that's the top end of your budget.
Yeah.
And then just to tempt you, because I do like to tempt people, I have the RSV Mille R, which is, get ready, 7,500.
Ouch.
But it's got all the bits on, it's all tricked up and stuff, so you know, you might just fall in love with it and think, sod it.
Sod it, yeah.
So what do you think of them, looks-wise?
Looks-wise, all three of them are fantastic. The Mille is very nice. It's got all the trick bits on already, so don't have to spend out afterwards putting them on. The Honda is a very nice looking bike, as is the Suzuki. All in all, they're all very good looking bikes.
They've all got what it takes and what you're looking for. It's just personal preference. So, well, we're going to let you loose on all three, which obviously don't worry me with that look, but we're going to go to Paul first, who's going to give you some hints and tips on how to deal with these three.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Okay, Karl, first up this week is Suzuki's TL1000R. This machine first appeared in 1998 and it uses a 90-degree V-twin motor, which is an uprated version of that used previously in the TL1000S. That bike gained a reputation for its handling being somewhat unpredictable, but this TL1000R model is a completely different animal. Suzuki have made it more stable and predictable on the handling front, and it's now a worthy contender in the world of big V-twin sports bikes. Our machine this week, Karl, is a T-registered from 1999. It's covered 22,500 kilometres, which is around 12,500 miles. It has a data tool alarm system fitted, and it's on sale at £4,800. But if you want something just a touch more exclusive, Karl, then you can climb aboard Aprilia's RSV Mille R. Said by some to be one of the best looking sports bikes available today, the Mille R develops an impressive 130 brake horsepower from its 60-degree V-twin motor. This R model comes with the added luxury of Olin suspension. The front forks alone would set you back around £1,500. And there are some nice carbon fibre touches and a pair of very smart and ultra-lightweight Oz racing wheels. The Mille R has got the lot, but it is the most expensive of this week's bikes. For this X-registered from 2001, which is showing just 4,500 miles, you'll need to find £7,500. And finally, Karl, this week we have the machine which took Colin Edwards to World Superbike glory, Honda's SP1. It first appeared in 1999 and it has of course since been replaced by the SP2. In fact, one of the main reasons for the update was to help clear up a slightly jerky low-down throttle response. So if you should get stuck in slow-moving traffic, Karl, and the power feels a little bit twitchy at the bottom end, then don't worry, there's nothing wrong, it's just a trait of SP1s. At the other end of the scale though, the 90-degree V-twin develops a claimed 136 brake horsepower, and it makes a gorgeous noise from its upswept stainless steel exhausts. This bike is a V-registered from the year 2000. It's an import and it's covered 18,000 kilometres, which converts to around 10,000 miles. It's yours today for £6,000.
So there you go, Karl. That was Paul there with some wise words on these three.
Yep.
Anything useful?
Yeah, there's some useful tips there.
Right, brilliant. That's good. Use those. We're going to set you off on the Suzuki.
Yep.
Have you ever ridden one of these before?
Yes, once before.
Right, okay. Have you looked at one of these before then to buy?
Yes.
Oh, right. Brilliant. Well, that's going to be interesting then to see what you think. So if you go and get your helmet on,
Yep.
come back and tell us what you think.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Thanks.
So while Karl has a play on the Suzuki, we're over to Paul with this week's used bike review.
When Yamaha launched their YZF R1 back in the January of 1998, it was then the absolute epitome of cutting-edge sports bike technology. It was the lightest in its class, it had the shortest wheelbase, it was the most powerful, but of course times change and now none of those are actually true. But that doesn't mean that the original R1 is past it. Oh no, far from it. Throughout the 1990s, Yamaha had been very much in the shadows of Honda, who were enjoying great success with their CBR 900 Fireblade. But all of that changed in '98 when the R1 rewrote the rulebooks for sports bikes. 150 brake horsepower in a machine weighing just 177 kilos. Its impressive list of stats, combined with its aggressive good looks, soon made the R1 into a top-selling sports bike. Personally, I still think it looks as good today as the day it was introduced. I know it's been superseded now by the 2002 model R1, which has got fuel injection and fancy LED tail lights and all the rest of it, but I still think this is one hell of a machine. But it's not a very big machine, is it, when you look at it? When you climb aboard, it's tiny, really. You know, when you think you've got a 1000cc motor down there, or near as damn it, it's not physically very big. And if you like the feeling of a big bike, gives you lots of presence on the road, then an R1 might not be such a good idea because you don't get that small bike. But they were very clever, Yamaha, when they actually designed this. Very, very clever what they did. They had lots of objectives. Two of the main ones were to keep it small and to keep it light. So things like, you can't see it actually, under there the crankcase is a one-piece crankcase, one chunk of metal that, which has saved an awful lot of weight. You see, if you whack the throttle, the front wheel will go airborne, believe me. Such is the instant power from its 4-cylinder motor. Once aboard the R1, the last word you'd use to describe its riding position is comfortable. It is not a comfortable bike. But this is a sports machine. It's focused, it's aggressive and it's powerful. And if you can't stand being stretched over the tank like a real racer, then I'd suggest you buy a cruiser. Handling wise, the R1 is as sharp as you like, yet it remains predictable and very precise. There's no nasty little twitches to catch you out. In fact, it's difficult to find something negative to say about this bike. Great motor in a superb chassis combined with some seriously powerful brakes, and you've just about got every boy racer's dream machine. There is actually one very important and very big negative point about an R1, and that's insurance, because unfortunately for some people, some ages, in certain parts of the country, bikes like these are virtually uninsurable. So it would be very wise to check that you can actually get cover and that you can afford the cover before you commit yourself to buying one. When the R1 first came out back in '98, would you believe it cost just over £9,000, and you can probably pick an early one up now for about half of that. This particular one is a V registered, it's a 1999 bike, it's fairly clean and tidy, not bad, it's in standard trim, from 12,500 miles. This in a showroom would be about £5,500, maybe 5,400, maybe 5,600, thereabouts, about £5,500 for something like that. But the good news is, if you're looking for an R1, there's loads and loads of used ones about, so take care to find a good one, and I guarantee you will absolutely love it.
Well, thank you, Paul, and while you've been away, Karl has returned with the Suzuki. What did you think?
Nice. It handles well, and it corners really well. It goes around the roundabouts really nicely.
Yeah.
Gets a bit hot on the legs of the frame, underneath by the legs, it gets a little bit hot.
Oh, right.
Besides that, the brakes are fantastic.
Yeah.
And it backfires a bit. I don't know if it's just this one, but it tends to backfire a little bit.
I have no idea. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Sounds like you're shooting somebody. Now, it's quite a big bike, isn't it? It's quite a kind of...
It's long. It's longer than my Ducati.
Right.
Which, for the first couple of minutes, took a while to get used to. But after that, no, it's a really nice bike to ride.
Yeah. Does it feel a lot different to your Ducati?
Not really. It's more comfortable than the Ducati.
Right. That's not difficult.
And it's got about the same. It's a little bit more torquey than the Ducati, but again, it's a bigger engine. But besides that, it's just generally a nice bike to ride.
Right. Good. So, like you say, the power and everything's there. You've got everything you would want, possibly. Anything you don't like about it?
Or the backfiring.
Yeah. Well.
And the heat on the frame right by your legs, because
that a
when you
problem?
put your feet down, it gets really, really hot.
Well, yes. That's a strange thing, actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know quite why that happens. Not heard about it before, so don't know. Maybe you're just hot stuff. Yeah, great. Well, we're going to set you off on the Honda now.
Yep.
If you go around the other side. The SP1, have you ever been on one of these before?
No, this is a new experience for me.
Right,
This one.
okay. This has got, it's got a good reputation. It's the top end of your budget.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, I mean, that's 48, so that's well in.
yeah,
So you're all right, you get a new set of leathers and all sorts of stuff if you get that one.
hopefully.
So yeah, we need to know what you think to this.
Yep.
All right. Everything okay?
Yep.
Smashing, you get yourself off on that then. And we'll
Super.
see when you get back. So while Karl puts the Honda through its paces, we're over to our legal eagles, Paul and PC Pulfrey, who aim to keep you on the right side of the law.
Well, thank you, Fran. Now, this is something we've all done before, isn't it? I have, anyway. I don't mind admitting it. We've all parked on pavements before, Chris. Here we are, parked on a pavement because we're going to nip to the local shop. Won't be a problem, we think.
We think.
Is it a problem? Is it illegal to park on a pavement?
Simple answer, yes.
Yeah?
You can't park your bike on a footpath.
Right, OK.
So you're looking at fixed penalty, probably £30 non-endorsable, I would say, for parking on a footpath, unless we're into a serious obstruction or a dangerous position, and dangerous position then becomes an endorsable offence.
All right.
So potentially it can get you points in your licence.
Right, here, there's an entrance here to a building, so we're obstructing that.
Yep.
We made a right mess of it, really.
I think you're looking at the common sense application, aren't you, really?
Yeah.
If you park it out of the way, if it's a nice big wide footpath, it's out of the way, park considerately, most people would say that's okay.
Yeah.
Because you see some are just abandoned, literally,
Yeah.
while in it to the shop or whatever. And then it becomes, if someone makes a complaint because they can't get the buggy through or whatever, along comes a local friendly traffic warden or a police motorcyclist, and we have to take some sort of action.
So the answer is read the rules, because they will be there somewhere, won't
Yeah, it's same with the yellow line side of the road.
Yeah.
You see a yellow line, there's got to be a restriction of some sort.
Right.
Have a look around, you'll find a little plate that qualifies when you can, when you can't park,
Right.
and then you're all right.
Right, read the rules and you won't get in trouble.
Yeah.
Smashing.
Cheers, you two. Well, that's it for part one. Join us in part two when Karl will tell us what he thinks to the SP1, and we'll be sending him out on this, the Millie R. And Paul will be back to give you some of his riding tips. See you after the break. Welcome back to Used Bike Heaven. Now, if you were with us before the break, you'll know we're with Karl, who's looking for a rather big V-twin. He currently has a Ducati 748, so we sent him out on the Suzuki TL1000R. He liked that, no problems with that. Then we sent him out on the Honda SP1, and we're going to find out what he thinks.
Right, it's a nice bike.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do like it a lot. It's a bit twitchy at lower speeds.
Right.
When you go around roundabouts, you need to open the throttle to get a smooth run. It runs a little bit wider than the Suzuki.
Right.
But besides that, it picks up well.
Really?
And it's generally a nice, comfortable bike to ride. I thought the seat's quite hard, but it's actually quite comfortable after a while.
Yeah? Oh, fantastic. So you like this one as well, then?
Yeah, I do.
Are you just easily pleased, or you just get giddy on these bikes?
I'm easily pleased.
Is there anything you don't like about this?
I don't like the front end, the headlights and the air intake.
Oh, right.
As it's style-wise, now I've looked at it again, it's...
See, I quite like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but each to their own, isn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's the top end of your budget.
Yeah.
Is that going to make a difference to you?
Not really, no. I mean, if it's a bike that I like, then obviously I've got to go with it.
Right.
Don't
And you like
disappoint
this
me.
one, but
I
then
do.
you liked the one before as
I
well.
know.
You're going to have problems, I can tell.
I know, I am.
Right. Well, that's covered that one then.
Certainly has.
Right. Well, now I'm going to throw a real spanner in the works, because this is £7,500.
Ouch.
So we're a good 1,500 over.
Yeah.
Is that, I mean, would you stretch?
If I liked it that much, then I would contemplate it, yeah.
Right, okay. Well, hop on
Yep.
and tell us what you think. So while Karl takes off on his third and final test, we're going to go to Paul with this week's riding tip.
Thank you, Fran. Well, not so much a riding tip this week, but a little reminder of the sort of things we should be checking before we actually go for a ride on our bike. Pre-ride checks, you see, they will help avoid PMS. PMS, of course, parked motorcycle syndrome, and we don't want any of that. So there are a few acronyms that you can use to help remind you of the sort of things that you should check. This is a popular one. POWER stands for petrol, oil, water, electrics and rubber. Check all them. There's another acronym there, T-clocks, tyres, controls, that's things like levers and cables, hoses, that sort of thing, lights, oil, chassis and your suspension or even your stand. But my favourite one is this one, Best Cop. It's a good acronym, this. Brakes, electrics, suspension, tyres, chain, it could be a shaft or a belt drive, oil and petrol. So let's go back to the top, brakes. If you're checking your brakes, obviously you're going to check that they work. So you check your pads, make sure they're not actually below the serviceable limit. You check your discs as well, make sure there's no damage on them. Also your hoses, and of course your brake fluid needs to be to the correct level. On then to the E, which is of course electrics. Well, electrics are pretty obvious. It's lights in particular. Brake lights, make sure your brake light works with your front brake and with your rear brake lever as well. You also might want to go a bit further and even check your battery, check your acid level in your battery, the fluid level, and check the terminals are nice and clean. S, of course, is suspension. At the front, you check your fork tubes, make sure there's no pitting, no damage, and of course make sure there's no fork oil actually leaking out of the fork tubes, out of the seals. At the rear, you check your linkages, make sure everything's as it should be, and if you're carrying a pillion or a lot of luggage, you might even want to stiffen your suspension up. Tyres, for the T, pretty obvious really. The most important thing with tyres is the pressures. Make sure your tyres are the correct pressures, because your bike just won't ride the way it should do if they're not the correct pressures, and the correct pressures should be measured when the tyres are actually cold. Also, you check your treads and you make sure there's no damage, no stones stuck in them or anything like that. On to the C then, well that's the chain. So you check that your chain's in good condition, all your links are the way they should be, they're not all slack, and your sprockets as well are not damaged and they're not hooked round. If you've not got a chain drive, you might have a shaft drive. If you've got a shaft, you check the fluid level, the oil level in the shaft, and if it's a belt drive, you've got something like a Harley Davidson, then you check that there's no cracks, no damage and no tears on the belt. Oil, dead obvious, check your oil, because if you've got no oil in your engine, it's going to go bang. So it might be a sight glass, it might be a dipstick, whatever, check your oil. And of course, finally, P is petrol. And if you haven't got any petrol, you're not going to go anywhere. And if you checked all them on a fairly regular basis, you shouldn't have any problems, and hopefully you shouldn't get any PMS. Thanks for that, Paul. Well, while you were away, Karl returned with the Mille R. What did you think?
Lovely.
Really?
Yeah, very nice bike.
That was probably the most definite answer, but don't give me too much. What was so good about it?
It handles really well. I think it's because it's got O-rings all round. The suspension is fantastic. The brakes are really, really good. It's a little bit twitchy at slower speeds, not as bad as the Honda, but it's a little bit twitchy, but I can live with that.
Yeah.
Generally, it's a really, really nice bike, really comfortable.
Is it comfortable? Because I mean, you're going to be doing a lot of, what, 3 hours a day is a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot, but so that I don't know whether it's the way that the seat is tailored or what. It's a really comfortable bike to ride. It's not too heavy on the wrists. I like the display. I like all the gadgets that it's got.
Right.
And it's got the double bubble screen, so the wind protection is excellent.
Yeah, and it's got all the bits on it. I mean, I know it's £1,500. I was going to say 1,500,000, £1,500 over your budget, but it is fully tricked.
It's fully loaded, and these are the type of bits that you pay extra. Once you've got a bike to put on, you'd spend that maybe more. I mean, it's about £1,500 for the front forks alone. Yeah,
and I think it looks good because I mean, it's got the forks, it's got the wheels, it's got everything.
Yeah, the wheels are fantastic.
Yeah.
The whole bike generally is a really nice bike.
Okay, you can get me excited by it now. Anything you didn't like?
The twitchiness going around roundabouts and at slow speeds again.
But it was better than the SP1.
It's better than the SP1.
But not quite as good as the TL1000.
No. I think that's what lets these two bikes down, the Honda and the Mille, is the twitchiness at lower speeds.
Right. Okay, but it's got other things going for it.
Yeah, it is.
Right, well, we know what you think about this. We need to cast your mind back to the Suzuki. Good and bad points.
Good points. Generally, it's a good bike. There's not a lot wrong with it. The only thing wrong with it, really, is the frame gets a little bit warm.
Yeah, sets your legs on fire, which isn't good. Right, yeah.
But generally, there's nothing bad you can say about it. It's not really bad, it's not really good. It's in the middle there somewhere.
And it's well within your budget?
Well within the budget, yeah.
Yeah, right, okay. The SP1?
SP1, a very good bike. I like it a lot. The only things that let it down is the twitchiness around corners. It doesn't quite get into the corner quite as well as the Suzuki. And the petrol consumption is quite poor.
Yeah, and if you are going to do a lot of miles, which is a major thing, you know.
It is, yeah. It's something I need to take into consideration.
Absolutely. Right, and we know what you think to this.
Lovely.
So have you made your decision? But don't tell me if you have. You've made it?
No.
Okay, well, try and make it then, because we're going to have a little recap.
Yep.
And when we come back, we need to know.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Fran. Well, Karl, will you choose the cheapest of our three bikes today, Suzuki's TL1000R at £4,800? You described this bike as a good all-rounder, but you noticed that the frame got rather hot, which might not be ideal for your daily 150-mile round trip to the office and back. So how about Aprilia's RSV Mille R with its fancy wheels and suspension? You didn't find much to complain about with this one. perhaps just a little twitchy at low speeds, but remember this is a true racing thoroughbred. Unfortunately, Karl, that's reflected in the price at £7,500. Maybe then you'll go for the Honda SP1, which is just within your budget at £6,000. However, you're right to be concerned about its limited tank range. 150 miles per day would land you with a fairly hefty fuel bill at the end of each month. Karl, the decision is yours.
So come on then, Karl, which one is it going to be?
It's going to have to be the Millie.
Is it?
But
Oh,
it's out of my price range.
right.
If I can find a standard one
Yeah.
within my price range, then I'll snap it up.
And tricky. So you actually feel, though, that that bike is worth £1,500 more than the other two?
As it stands now, yes.
With all the bits
with all the trick bits on there, it is worth. I mean, all the bits that are on there worth a fortune.
Well, the forks alone are £1,500. So, you know, it's...
Yikes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want a Millie
Yep.
that you can buy for £6,000 that rides like this, and you can add bits to as you go.
Yeah. I mean, if they could give me this for £6, please.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
It's a shame, isn't it?
Well, so I'll go and find you one of those then.
Yeah, please.
OK then, thanks for that, Mr. Easy to Please. Right, well, thank you very much.
That's all right, thank you.
OK, well, there you go. A woman's work is never done. But we'll see you next week for some more used bike heaven. You know it's pointless, don't you?
I know. I'm not
You
gonna
should
win.
really just go and get
I
your
should
checkbook out. Stop being tight and
I've got
just...
to convince the missus. It's not going to work.
Oh, that'll be all right. Just tell you not take her on the back.
Yeah.